This is a Glassbox Media podcast.
Hi, human. Welcome to the God Pod. I'm God, and like Jesus, I'm hanging in there.
If you like interviews with the most interesting people alive or dead, then you'll love the God Pod.
Here's me talking to Mary Trump about her crazy uncle.
I knew he was going to be disastrous.
And here's me debating a real live atheist.
You really cannot make the case that this is a good book.
I discuss all the latest current events down on Earth.
Find the God Pod wherever you get podcasts.
The God Pod. Have it, Yahweh.
Welcome to the I Can't Sleep podcast with Benjamin Boster. If you're tired of sleepless nights, you'll love the I Can't Sleep podcast. I help quiet your mind by reading random articles from across the web to bore you to sleep with my soothing voice. Each episode provides enough interesting content to hold your attention, and then your mind lets you drift off. Find it wherever you get your podcasts. That's I Can't Sleep with Benjamin Boster.
Welcome to episode number 226 of Tennis Podcast, the show where we guess each other's top 10 lists every week. I'm your host, Nick Emel, and today I'm joined by comedian Dave Stone. Dave, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. How big are your feet today?
How big are my feet today? Oh, is that a Bigfoot reference?
Shh. No spoilers. How big are your feet?
I'm a 10 and a half.
10 and a half. Wow.
Just like yesterday and last week and probably for about the last 20 years.
Okay. No, they don't grow or change week to week. Weird.
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, Dave, I am so excited to have you today. For those that haven't heard of Dave's work, he's been featured on The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. He was on Season 8 of NBC's Last Comic Standing. He was on Viceland's Flophouse, Travel Channel's Cheat Day Chowdown. When you're not headlining clubs across the country, you have your own podcast, The Boogie Monster, which I'm sad to see is on hiatus, but really enjoy that show. Hope you'll be back soon.
Yes.
But you do have the Stonebergs podcast as well with your wife, Katie Strandberg. So anything else that the listeners should know about you before we kind of dive in?
As far as plugs, the only thing really, I just released a new special on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Pack a Lunch on YouTube, available for your viewing pleasure now.
Yeah, and I'll put a link in the show notes for the listeners. Dave, in reading about you, listening to your podcast, it's kind of come to my attention that you have an interest in the Sasquatch or the
Yes,
Bigfoot.
Very much.
Can you just kind of give me your high-level thoughts on Bigfoot?
Well, I think I've always been attracted to like mysteries, and whether it be man-made mysteries or even mysteries of the universe. I just love the concept that there might be animals or creatures out there that science hasn't recognized yet or identified. It started early when I was probably in second or third grade. I don't know if you remember if they had these when you were a kid, but the Choose Your Own Adventure books.
Of course.
Yeah, I love that concept, but I got a hold of one about Bigfoot, and that was my first introduction to it. Obviously they don't teach you that in school. Back then there wasn't very many documentaries or anything about it. So once I kind of wrapped my head around the concept of a giant bipedal primate roaming North America, that really just kind of blew my little mind, and been a fan ever since.
Yeah. And of course, bipedal primates wandering the woods. We also have regular sidekick host Dr. Buster. But I think you're talking about the Sasquatch. Now, we're going to get all into Sasquatch today, but I just want a simple yes or no. And I know there's caveats and all that, but if you had to boil it down to a yes or no, is there a Bigfoot?
Yes.
Yes.
No doubt.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I lean that way too. I think I'm like 60-40 yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I leave a lot of room for doubt, but I leave a lot of room for, well, let's just talk about it. Today you're going to guess the top 10 states in America that have the most reported Bigfoot sightings.
Okay.
Quick shout out to my sources today: the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, satelliteinternet.com, outsideonline.com, Live Science, and of course pulled a few notes from Wikipedia as well. Before I turn you loose on this list, I'm going to read this little intro about the list. The Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization was founded in the mid-90s, and it includes 500 people who review reported Sasquatch sightings throughout North America. The Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization has received nearly 75,000 reports of Bigfoot sightings over the years, but only considers between 5,000 and 6,000 of those to be credible. How do those numbers strike you? 75,000 reports over about 20, 30 years, and about 5,000 to 6,000 of those are credible.
That's not a great percentage based on the actual reports, but that's still a pretty large number. Now, how do they deem them credible? I guess that's my question.
I have that here. It says that their investigators favor reports from adult eyewitnesses and even folks who were skeptical of Sasquatches before their sighting, rather than, say, an amateur Bigfoot hunter who goes out with the intention of spotting one, as is the case in the most famous Bigfoot sighting ever that we'll talk about. The BFRO also doesn't consider secondhand accounts like those presented on podcasts. In their official count, they must speak with an eyewitness before they can determine whether a reported sighting makes the list. And they have about 5,500 credible reports since the mid-90s. Every state in America has a credible report other than Hawaii. Probably not a surprise. But my thought when I hear 5,500 credible reports in about 30 years, that's a lot of credible reports for a creature that people still can't agree if it's even real or not, right?
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, there's been less than 5,500 sightings of some of these fish in the ocean and shit, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
And that's kind of not the basis of my belief, but it's definitely part of, I don't know if evidence is the right word, not evidence, but just as far as, when I was a kid, of course, you could definitely, this might be a fairy tale or, folklore, but as I get older and you start hearing all these reports, and my point is, are they all lying? Are they all misidentifying? I mean, sure, a lot of them are misidentifying as bears or other creatures. Some people are just completely full of crap, just want the attention. But whether it be a small percentage or not, I would like to think that some of these people are credible, are being honest, are identifying correctly. So it just, the fact that
even same with like UFO sightings.
Exactly. So I find it hard to believe that 100% of the reports are either lying or misidentifying or, coming from a crazy person. I refuse to believe that 100% of the people are lying or incorrect.
Well, of course, you can also be correct and crazy at the same time.
True.
Right? But I'm with you. It's somewhere in the middle. I mean, for all intents and purposes, there's a lot of hoaxes out there. There's a lot of misidentification out there, but there's also a lot of probably sincere, honest people that really think they've seen a Bigfoot. Today, as you guess these states, I have a few states, not all 10, but a few states where I have like the most famous or credible sighting from that state that we'll go over and we'll kind of talk about what you think of it.
Okay.
But I don't think we can continue without breaking down what a Bigfoot is. A lot of our listeners probably aren't as into these big, hairy, muscular bipedal apes like you and I. So let's talk about it.
Sure.
The Bigfoot, also commonly referred to as Sasquatch, is a large, hairy, human-like mythical creature purported to inhabit forests in North America, particularly in the Pacific Northwest. That's a hint. People claim to have seen Bigfoot, describing it as a large, hairy, muscular bipedal ape, roughly 6 to 9 feet tall, or about 2 to 3 meters tall, covered in hair described as black, dark brown, or dark reddish. Does this align with your take so far, or your beliefs?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's kind of standard Bigfoot stuff. Most scientists have historically discounted the existence of Bigfoot, considering it to be the result of a combination of folklore, misidentification, hoax, like we've said. Legends existed before there was a single name for the creature. Ecologist Robert Pyle argues that most cultures have accounts of human-like giants in their folk history, expressing a need for some larger-than-life creature. Each language had its own name for the creature. Most of the names translate to wild man or hairy man, but the name Bigfoot itself came in the late 19th century, so kind of a recent phenomenon. And last thing I'll read here is that when asked her opinion on Bigfoot in 2002, Jane Goodall, the scientist who studied apes and primates her whole life, she said, "I'm sure they exist," and later said, chuckling, "Well, I'm a romantic, so I always wanted them to exist." And finally, why isn't there a body? I can't answer that, and maybe they don't exist, but I want them to. So, how much of your belief in a Bigfoot stems from your beliefs versus your craving for it to be real,
That's a great question. It's definitely probably lopsided towards my craving and my desire for it to be real. But yeah, I would probably say 70-30 as far as my want and my true actual belief. That point she made is a very common point and a good argument that skeptics make. Show me a body. Where's a body? Where's some sort of physical, tangible evidence? I don't know if this is true or not. I feel like I read this or saw this, and I've since gone on record with this, and some of my other comedian friends have actually made jokes about this at my expense. But somewhere I read, and again, I don't know if this is true. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a biologist, obviously.
Whoa. Hang on.
Yeah, I didn't mean to mislead anyone. But the fact that apparently I read somewhere that it was a fact that we've never found the remains of a naturally deceased bear.
Really?
We've never found the bones or whatever of a naturally deceased. I mean, of course, there's, hunting and other predators. But point being, we know there's bears. But yet, if that fact is true, which with the caveat of I'm not sure that it is, but if that fact is true, we obviously know that bears exist, but yet we've never found the remains of a naturally deceased bear. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if the argument of Bigfoot doesn't exist because we've never found a body, that would definitely affect that argument.
Right. Because if there's a Bigfoot out there, you got to think he's near the top of the food chain and he's not being stalked by many predators. Therefore, most, if not all, Bigfoot deaths are natural, to your point. So where's the body? And it's also possible, I might lean this way, that Bigfoot did exist at one time, but no longer does. Right?
Yes, I mean, I think that is a scientific fact. Gigantopithecus back in Asia 100,000 years ago. I'm pretty sure that's been established. So that also is kind of shaping my belief of like, okay, so we know it existed at one point. So it's not like it's a completely mythical creature, like a unicorn or something that we have no historical record of. Just the fact that, they are finding new species of animals all the time, whether it be underwater or in the jungles. I mean, I know, again, all these facts are just half-baked stuff that I vaguely remembered throughout the years. But I think there was a certain type of ape that they thought didn't exist in Asia until the 50s. Up until the 1950s, they were like, oh yeah, these particular apes do not exist on this continent. And then one day they discovered, oh yeah, actually there's a lot in Asia. So, things like that just, and the overall concept, and I think I may have mentioned this before, but just the fact, I just like the concept that we don't have it all figured out. We don't know everything. I mean, we think we do, whether it be regular folks or scientists. We like to think that we're the leaders of this planet. We're top of the food chain. We've got it all figured out. But to me, that just seems so arrogant. The world is such a giant place to think that, oh yeah, we've discovered all the species. Yeah. No more to be found. But
they find new species every year.
All the time. So, and I know there's a difference between finding a little microbe or something in the ocean as opposed to a 9-foot, ape. I know that's a little more difficult to conceal, but still just the concept of like, we're finding new stuff all the time.
And I think Bigfoot, obviously, this is no surprise, but it falls into like that UFO, alien, extraterrestrial, and just cryptid in general category of people immediately dismiss it as kooky or weird or fake. Therefore, when you have such a stigma attached to it, it's hard to get legitimate research done about it.
Yeah.
And of course, it helps and hurts that now there's like this phenomenon out there of like Bigfoot documentaries and Bigfoot hunters. They have shows on TV and like there's something to be said for that bringing more awareness to, legitimate research, but also something to be said for leading to more hoaxes out there, things like that. But we talked about Bigfoot. Before you guess the states, I want to know, what do you think is a state or a few states with the least amount of sightings, credible sightings?
Okay. Right off the top of my head, I would assume Rhode Island, just simply because of its size.
Yeah, Rhode Island is the 49th state.
Okay. Yep. I mean, you mentioned Hawaii. Would that be the 50th, I would assume?
Yep.
Okay. Other states with the least amount, maybe New Mexico, maybe like desert states? No?
You'd be surprised. I mean, New Mexico's not in the top 10, but it's not in the bottom 10 either.
Okay. What about some of the smaller northeastern states? Connecticut, Massachusetts.
Nailed it.
Maybe Vermont.
So the bottom 5 are Delaware, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. Actually, Nevada is in there too, so that's a desert state. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So that's the states with the least sightings. Let's talk about the ones with the most. Is there any state that comes to mind? Try to save number 1 for later, because we all probably could guess number 1.
Yeah, that one seems fairly obvious.
So what do you think what else is in the top 10?
In the top 10, I would say Washington State.
Washington State?
Yeah, that wasn't my number one. I feel like that might be number 2.
Well, Dave,
Uh-huh.
you won't be invited back anytime soon because you fucked it up already. Washington's number 1.
Oh, Washington's number 1. I
Washington's
assumed
number
Alaska was 1.
Did you really? Okay.
Yeah, I always thought Alaska would be number 1. Just because its size and it's way up there.
Yeah. This is important to note. I should have said this earlier, but we're looking at total sightings, regardless of population. There was a separate list where it was like sightings per 100,000 people, which I almost did that, and Alaska was pretty high on that one. But given the small population of Alaska, when we're talking about total sightings, it just couldn't crack this high on the list. But
yeah, that's right. I didn't think about that as far as population or people, there to actually see them, or cite them or report them.
And it's also possible, I don't have it in front of me, so I don't know, but it's possible that there are more sightings in Alaska, but fewer of them are considered credible.
Yeah.
So Washington is number 1. When this list was pulled, when was this list pulled? I want to say 2022. There were 302 credible sightings, according to the Bigfoot Researchers Organization. That's about 2.6 sightings per 100,000 people. When I think of Bigfoot, I definitely think of the Pacific coast of America, Pacific Northwest. And I want to talk to you about the most credible sighting, according to this website, in Washington. Are you familiar with many sightings, or do you know many stories?
Yeah, obviously Patterson, Gimlin. Of course, that wasn't in Washington. I think that was California.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, that's obviously the big one. The Freeman footage is pretty good. I don't know if you've seen that one. I don't know I can't recall where that one was filmed. But yeah, like early 90s. Paul Freeman, I think is his name. Pretty good video of probably total of about 30, 40 seconds. And it's not just one static shot like the Bigfoot's kind of going in between trees, so you're losing him and regaining him. But that one is always
him or her, sir.
Yeah, him or her. Yes, of course. Yeah, or they. Don't want to assume anything. Yeah.
Well, Washington, I'm going to tell you, I had not heard about this one, but it's pretty interesting. So this is way back in 1924. A group of gold prospectors claimed they defended their cabin against multiple gorilla men in a gorge, later named Ape Canyon on the side of Mount St. Helens. One of the miners, Fred Black, allegedly shot at a Sasquatch during the day, which prompted a gang of hairy brethren to seek revenge come nightfall. Now, this is already amazing because I've never heard of a Bigfoot sighting where there's A, multiple big feet at once, and B, they're attacking, because they're, the legend is that they're pretty elusive creatures. They want nothing to do with people, but these Bigfoot are coming for revenge at nighttime. The creatures are said to have pelted the miner's cabin with rocks and boulders, and one even reached an arm inside. This is like somebody's got to make a horror movie about this. The miners survived the onslaught, and as the sun rose, the beasts retreated back into the woods. But when Beck returned to the scene with the U.S. Forest Service Rangers after news broke of the attack, the Rangers could not find a Sasquatch body and apparently weren't impressed with the large stones they found next to the cabin or the supposed giant footprints nearby. A local paper reported at the time that the Rangers seemed to think the miners placed a stone there themselves and that the footprints were made by human hands. So I don't know how credible it is or isn't, right? Because, I mean, the only witnesses you have are those that claim to have been attacked, but there were big stones nearby and big footprints. So, Dave Stone, were these stones legitimately thrown by a Bigfoot? What do you think?
I mean, I've heard other stories where big feet have thrown things, whether it be rocks or sticks or logs. But yeah, I mean, again, we have no basis to disprove it. And I think there is kind of a bias, like more of a recency bias as far as like things that happened. The further away they were, the longer ago they happened, the less credibility they have. But that's, I don't know if that's true. So,
yeah,
I think
1924, that's 99 years ago.
We tend to think that people back in the day were just dumber for some reason. Like,
they were.
Yeah, well, that's true too.
I mean, people were shitting in the streets until like the 1800s.
That's a good point. But, as far as, I still think there was rational, semi-intelligent people back in the day who, might report some of these stories that could be accurate.
Yeah. Well, and not to beat a dead horse here, but like the UFO thing too, like these sightings, enough time goes by and enough people mock it that it's just hard for a normal person to even consider it.
Yeah.
I have no idea on the validity of the story, but the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization said it's credible. And it's scary as fuck. I mean, I don't know if there's anything I could think of scarier than a group of 9 feet big feet attacking me with big stones. Although, if even like 2 or 3 at a minimum of these big feet are coming with big ass stones, you think there'd be a casualty in this group of men, right?
Yeah, you would think. But maybe their aim's not so good.
Yeah.
Speaking of Mount St. Helens, just real quick, my favorite story. Now, this, obviously, I feel a little skeptical about. I don't know if you heard this one. Mount St. Helens, when did that erupt? 1980?
Something like
whenever,
that.
Yeah, whenever that erupted, there's stories that it wiped out so many different species of wildlife, including several Sasquatch. There was National Guard people who showed up to kind of help with the relief effort and to kind of clean up the area and remove a lot of the dead wildlife, the elk and the deer. And there's stories that, they pulled out several Sasquatch out of that area. But the crazy part that, and this, we did an episode on this on the Boogie Monster. Apparently there was reports that there were some generals and high-ranking officials that showed up, and they had set up kind of a home base, and there were tents and headquarters, and somebody saw a general and a Sasquatch come out of a tent, like after a meeting, get into a military Jeep. The Sasquatch was riding shotgun in a military Jeep, and they drove off. So that one I find hard to believe, but it is fun to think about. Just a Sasquatch meeting with military officials.
The Sasquatch is like communicating and like having relations.
Yeah.
I could see why the U.S. government would want to hide alien spacecraft, but I don't really see why they'd want to hide Sasquatch, right?
Great point. Yeah. What do we have to lose? Like, how's that going to affect us negatively? You know, the UFO thing, you're talking about belief systems and spirituality and God, but yeah, what's their motivation for concealing this? I've never understood that.
And we don't know, in the story you just shared about the general and the Sasquatch getting into a Jeep, we don't know that they were really talking about like human-Sasquatch relations. They could have just been setting up like a date or
That's true.
Something like that. We don't know what happened in the tent either. So, who's to say?
Yeah.
So you got Washington number 1. What do you want to talk about next? Which state?
I'm going to say California.
California is number 2, for sure.
Okay. California.
And I'm excited to talk about California because this is the place with the most famous Bigfoot sighting of them all.
Yeah.
So California number 2, 302 sightings. That comes to 2.6 sightings per 100,000 people. Let's talk about the Patterson Gimlin film. This is the film from the 60s that all of us have seen. If you haven't seen it, you've seen a still image of it. It's a Sasquatch walking away from a camera in the woods, and he's looking back. Actually, it's a she. She's looking back over her shoulder. If you haven't seen this in a while or you need a reminder, check the show notes. There's a link to this video on YouTube. You should watch it real quick. Here's the story, though. This is in Northern California, 1967. Filmmakers Roger Patterson and Robert Bob Gimlin. The film shows what they claim was a large, hairy, bipedal, ape-like figure with short, silvery brown and darkish reddish brown or black hair covering most of its body, including prominent boobies on the body. This is a female Bigfoot. Patterson estimated he was about 25 feet or just under 8 meters away from the creature at his closest, which is pretty damn close. The figure had walked away from them to a distance of about 120 feet before Patterson began to run after it, so that makes the film pretty shaky for a while. Patterson got about 80 feet from the figure, and at that point, the figure glanced over its right shoulder at the men, and Patterson fell to his knees. Patterson later characterized the creature's expression as one of contempt and disgust. You know how it is when the Empire tells you one more word and you're out of the game? That's the way it felt. It's a weird description. Shortly after glancing over its shoulder on film, the creature disappeared behind a grove of trees for 14 seconds, then reappeared in the final 15 seconds. After that, it faded back into the trees and was lost. The film generated a fair amount of national publicity. Patterson appeared on a few popular TV talk shows to promote the film. Bernard Heuvelmans, a zoologist and the so-called father of cryptozoology, thought the creature in the Patterson film was a suited human. He objected to the film subject's hair flow pattern as being too uniform, to the hair on the breasts as not being like a primate, and to its buttocks as being insufficiently separated. And Dave, have you ever been accused of your buttocks being insufficiently separated?
Not that I'm aware of. You know, there might be some stories behind my back, but that's never been a... Yeah, exactly. And it's never been a complaint that I've received.
So your buttocks is sufficiently separated. That's great news.
I think so.
And this guy, the critic of this film, he said that the creature was too calm in its retreat from the pursuing men as well. Just a little bit more here, and then I'll get your take. Prominent primate expert John Napier said, "I am convinced that Sasquatch exists. I cannot see a zipper, and I still can't. Therefore, I think we must leave the matter. Perhaps it was a man dressed up in a monkey suit. If so, it was a brilliantly executed hoax, and the unknown perpetrator will take his place with the great hoaxers of the world." Patterson died of cancer in 1972, 5 years after the film was shot, and he maintained right to the end that the creature on the film was real. And his friend Gimlin, who was there during the film, always denied being involved in any part of a hoax. So I know that doesn't mean anything. He could have lied on his deathbed, but it's something. He never came out as a hoax, neither of them. And the last note I'll take, actually, I'll pause there. Dave, give me your hot takes on this video.
I love this video so much.
Same.
There's a stabilized version too. Like the original one, like you said, it's very shaky. But several people have since gone in and stabilized it. And there's one floating around YouTube. And it's just, all right, assuming this is real, this has got to be the most important piece of video in scientific history.
Yeah.
Assuming that it's real, it's incredible because unlike a lot of Bigfoot videos, I mean, this one, especially the stabilized version, I mean, it's crystal clear. You can see facial expressions. One thing I love about this, I've seen a lot of study of this film, and I think it was Dr. Meldrum. I think he's a professor up at Idaho State University.
Listener of the show.
Yeah. Oh, really? Big Bigfoot guy.
Yeah.
But I think it was him that broke down the analysis of the video, and they were talking about the actual gait of Patty as far as like the angle of the ankle and the calf and the shin. They were just talking about how that's not human-like. And I don't know all the geometry and science behind it, but they were just talking about the angles don't compute as far as the way a human would walk, or even a human pretending to walk like a Squatch, like our...
It doesn't come naturally to a human.
Yeah, our anatomy just doesn't line up the way this one does. There's another piece of analysis where they spot a possible hernia in her right quadricep.
Really? I haven't heard this.
If they slow it down, and you can see like a bulging hernia coming up and down out of the right quadricep muscle. So little things like that, and the fact that you can see muscle definition, you can see facial definition. It just...
Butt definition.
I find this one I find it very hard to believe that that's a human being in a suit.
Yeah, so a few things on both the skeptic and non-skeptic side. So the gait, I've read a lot about that too. A lot of experts saying that a human could not reproduce that gait if they tried. I've seen pushback on that, so there are two sides, but that's definitely a prominent for proponents of this video. I'll say too, it's easy to watch this video say you're watching it for the first time in 2023 and look at it and say, obviously that's a guy in an ape suit. But remember, this is 1967. These people are not in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Because if this is a costume, then it's the best designed costume of the era, and I don't know how they'd get their hands on that. Where's the costume now, etc. So that's something. Now on the other side, the skeptical side, they were out there looking for a Bigfoot.
Of course, that hurts the story so much. I'll admit that's hard to get around that.
Yeah, I go back and forth on this video. I think it's super compelling. The frustrating thing is we'll probably really never know. You know, we'll never know definitively one way or another.
Yeah.
Hell of an ass on her though, Patty.
Yeah, she's thick.
She is thick with 2 C's. Hello, listener. Nick here. I am so excited about our next sponsor because it's been a real game changer for me this year. It's HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. I have tried other meal kit services, but HelloFresh has been my favorite by far. I wish I had tried it even sooner. Summer is the perfect time to try HelloFresh. From chef-crafted seasonal recipes to their new Fresh and Fit summer menu, HelloFresh brings flavor right to your door. If you're like me, after a long day, the last thing I want to do is cook. So me and my family got in the habit of ordering takeout food way more than we should. But like I said at the start, HelloFresh has been a game changer for us. When you need dinner fast, don't call for delivery. Just think HelloFresh. Their fast and fresh recipes are ready in just 15 minutes or less. Plus, HelloFresh is 25% cheaper than takeout. Don't be like me and put off trying something as good as this for too long. It's time to try HelloFresh for yourself, and the best part is HelloFresh has a special offer just for cute little 10ish podcast listeners like you. Go to hellofresh.com/10ish50 and use code 10ish50 for 50% off plus free shipping. What? That's hellofresh.com/10ish50 or just click the link in the show notes. And don't forget to use the code 10ish50 for 50% off plus free shipping. Listener, are you ready to live your best life? I got you, fam. If you've listened to 10ish Podcast for a while, you know that I am a big fan of AG1. AG1 is a foundational nutrition supplement that delivers comprehensive nutrients for whole body health. AG1 is great bang for my buck and my butt, as it replaces a lot of other supplements like daily multivitamin, minerals, pre- and probiotics for my gut health, adaptogens, and a greens blend, literally all in just one scoop of powder. Did I mention it's delicious too? I take it every morning and it has completely changed the way I feel and operate every single day. Just one daily serving supports energy, focus, strength, and clarity with 75 high-quality vitamins, probiotics, and whole food sourced ingredients. Seriously, I cannot think of another daily routine that pays off as well as AG1, which is why I trust the product so much and use it every day. Now I need you to feel the way I feel. If you're looking for a simpler, effective investment for your health, try AG1 and get 5 free AG1 travel packs and a free 1-year supply of vitamin D with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/10ish. That's drinkag1.com/10ish. Check it out. Link is also in the show notes.
Ask Sherwin-Williams during the Shades of Summer sale, July 28th through August 7th, and get 35% off paints and stains with prices starting at $28.92. That means 35% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing and relaxing, which makes it especially great for bedrooms and bathrooms. And of course, get 35% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Psst. Want to skip ads like that in the future? Go to tenishpod.com/plus. Sign up and you'll never hear an ad on 10ish Podcast again. So that is my favorite piece of Bigfoot history. But why don't we do another guess, Dave?
Sure. We got Washington at 1. We got California at 2. I'm going to say I'm almost positive that Oregon is in there in the top 10.
Let's just crush the Pacific coast here. Oregon is on here. It's number 6.
Okay.
302 credible sightings, 2.6 per 100,000 people. I pulled a sighting from July 2019, pretty recently. This is in Dexter, Oregon. I'm going to read the testimony of the witness. It says, "It took us about an hour to cut our way in with chainsaws. The road was blocked by trees from a winter snowstorm. We were the first back in there. We were going in to look for the remains of an old homestead. I walked into a small opening on a rise. I just happened to look out across the drainage and I noticed the outline of what looked like a person, but way out of proportion. I called for my friend to come over and look at what I was seeing. I'm old and my vision is not what it used to be. I wasn't sure I was looking at a shadow, but then it moved about 2 feet to the left and just stood there and looked straight at us. We watched it, still not believing what we were seeing. After a minute or two, we turned away for about 10 to 20 seconds and turned back and it was gone. I have worked in the woods from 14 years old. I'm 62 now. I've seen many black bears, moose, buffalo, and nothing came close to the size of what we saw." I love stories like that. Unfortunately, it's completely unverifiable. You know, there's a few witnesses, but who knows? But the idea that this person is 62, he's been working in the woods his whole life, and he's never seen anything of that size. I mean, that'd be pretty fucked up. Oregon, if you were to look at sightings per 100,000 people, Oregon would be number 2 on the list. But on our total list, it's number 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And also, we're only doing America, but obviously if this was, North America, Vancouver would be pretty high as well.
Absolutely.
But we're done with the Pacific coast, so let's head elsewhere in the country.
I'm going to go a little inland and assume that Idaho is on the list.
Idaho, good guess, but no.
No,
but there is another state ending with ho, actually, or o, I guess.
Yeah. This was also on my list, Ohio.
Ohio,
Yeah.
number 4.
Oh, that's 4. I didn't realize it
Yeah.
was that high.
I'm actually realizing now. I guess I copy-pasted the same sightings number for every state because I just noticed I'm saying 302 for all of them.
I noticed that. I was like, what are the odds?
Yeah, let me correct that real quick. So
I didn't want to correct you because I don't have the correct answer, but I did notice that.
So Washington actually has 676 sightings. California has 445. Oregon has 254, and Ohio has 302. So that's actually the correct one, 302.
Okay.
And that's sightings per 100,000 to 2.6. So I don't have a sighting incident to share from Ohio, but is there a particular reason it was on your list, I guess?
Just I've heard a lot of sightings out of there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I know there's more wilderness there than you might imagine. I know hunting is very popular there. But yeah, there was actually just a couple of years ago, there was a couple of decent videos not far from like Columbus rather. But yeah, for whatever reason, throughout the years, just doing my casual research, I just have noticed Ohio pops up quite a bit.
I think it's interesting. And actually, some of these states, like number 3, which you have not guessed yet, surprised me just because, well, I'll just tell you, it's Florida at number 3.
I was about to say Florida. Skunk Ape.
The skunk ape is there. But it's
Mm-hmm.
weird because I don't know if there is a Bigfoot in Florida, it must be a different species of Bigfoot, right? Because
yeah, the skunk ape they report is a little shorter, a little skinnier, a little more, the hair's a little longer. So obviously the fact that maybe its habitat is more swampy than mountainous or wilderness. But yeah, I don't know if it's technically a different species. I mean, obviously we don't know anything as far as the scientific record, but
we sure don't.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of reports about skunk ape and just how it's not as massive and impressive physically as some of the more northwestern Sasquatch.
That's kind of my point. You said it there is like, how can it be the same creature if they live in completely different environments? But we don't know anything, like you said. Florida is number 3, 328 total credible sightings. That comes to 1.5 per 100,000 people. I like the idea of a skunk ape just because I like the name. It's an ape, but he's stinky, you know?
Yeah, that's a common trait that people report is just like a sulfur, rotten egg smell.
Sexy. But what are some states right near Florida?
Well, my home state of Georgia, I think might be on the list.
Yeah, there's a lot of, well, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not super Georgia expert, but a lot of wooded area out there.
Absolutely, especially in the northern, well, all over the state. But I grew up in the kind of the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains and very, very secluded, very dense wilderness, a lot of forest, mountains. So yeah, it never surprises me when a sighting pops up in Georgia.
Yeah, it's number 10 with 132 total sightings. And I know, Dave, that you're actually a cop in Georgia once upon a time.
Yes, unfortunately so. In Atlanta for about 4.5 years. Terrible gig.
Atlanta, too. Yikes.
Yeah, it was rough.
Did you ever arrest a Sasquatch or break up a domestic incident between a Bigfoot and his wife, for example?
Unfortunately not. No, it was a little more real world stuff. But yeah, I would have loved the opportunity to investigate a Squatch sighting. But unfortunately, no, that never came down.
Never came to
down our area. Yeah.
I love the idea. I mean, you see it all the time, like on cops when they arrest someone and they duck their head into the car. What they needed is to get that general from Mount St. Helens to come show them how to get the Bigfoot in the car. No issues.
I think that's why they were in a Jeep, you know, so it was...
oh, because it's open air.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do a quick recap. Georgia at 10, 6 is Oregon. You got 4 Ohio, 3 Florida, 2 California, and 1 Washington State.
Okay.
What do we got left?
I'm going to say Michigan's got to be in there, especially with their UP, that Upper Peninsula. A lot of sightings up that way.
Michigan's number 8 with 220 total credible sightings.
Okay.
I actually have a sighting story here. This is, again, recent, August 2020, and I'm going to read first-person testimony. My 3 sons and I were out for a day trip drive along the Lake Huron shoreline, north of Lexington, Michigan. There's many stretches of wooded areas on the lake side of the road and rural farmland on the west side. At approximately 12:50 p.m., we were driving northbound, and my oldest son, who's 15, was seated next to me in the front and said, "Oh my God," and stared straight ahead. I was still driving and asked him what was wrong. He didn't initially answer, and his 13-year-old brother, seated in the back, also asked what was the matter. He spurted out, "I just saw a Bigfoot!" I thought he was joking at first, as he's always been a notable skeptic of my interest in Sasquatch research, which that hurts the story a little bit. But he adamantly insisted he wasn't kidding and described what he saw in the woods on the east side of the road. He said he saw a large dark figure walking south through the woods. He says it was too dark in the canopy of the woods to see a face, but the reason he noticed it at all was it was all moving like the figure in that old grainy footage that everyone always talks about, which is the Patterson Gimlin footage. He says the arms were longer than its torso, which is like the Patterson Gimlin patty, and that he could tell it had fur much in the same way you can tell a dog has fur from a distance, that it wasn't skin he was seeing. It's definitely walking, not standing, and its arms were swinging. He guessed it was around 100 yards away. He watched it for about 5 seconds, and then it was gone in the woods. Dave, why can't you let this story be real?
I don't know. I want it to be real.
I feel like you're not making it real enough for me.
No, I mean, with all this stuff, the skeptics always have a good point in that the lack of physical evidence.
I gotta tell you though, you see a Bigfoot like this family did, and you only see it for 5 seconds and then it's gone in the woods. Now, there's a part of me that's like, stop the car and go, look, of course you might fucking die. Although there's no Bigfoot murders that we know of, so seems unlikely.
That we know of. You familiar with the Missing 411 series?
No.
It's a series of books this ex-cop wrote. There's been all kind of, over the last 20, 30 years, there's been just a ton of missing persons cases in state and national parks. And one of the theories is that some of these people have gone missing due to Sasquatch. So that's pretty fascinating.
Interesting, yes.
Yeah.
Hey, I never really thought of that, but that would make sense. But I think even if you were to try to track a Sasquatch, like you just saw it, it's in the area. In the case of this family, stop the car. There's got to be Bigfoot shit somewhere nearby.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, you would imagine. Yeah, footprints or
even something. Footprints, right? But footprints are such a hard thing to prove because they're so easy to fake.
True.
But you get a Bigfoot pile of shit there.
Yeah.
Although I guess that could be bear shit or something. There's really just no way. You need a body.
Yeah.
It's like a crime scene. You need a body. Okay. So that's Michigan at number 8.
Okay.
You have another M state in here.
Montana?
That's what I would have guessed too, but no. I'm guessing the population's too small.
Oh, Maine?
No, that's a good one.
Now I'm running out of M states in general, much less ones that would...
Mid-America.
Maryland. No.
That's not Mid-America, Dave. You need a map?
Mid-Atlantic, yeah. Boy, my geography's really suffering on the spot here.
Missouri.
Missouri. Oh, okay.
Missouri
I would have thought
9.
Missouri. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is 154 credible sightings in Missouri. It's about 2.5 per 100,000 people. It's actually one of the higher ones on the list for the per 100.
Okay.
No stories out of Missouri. I looked at a few, but none of them were like that compelling.
Really?
So,
yeah, I don't think I've heard any stories coming out of Missouri. That's why it wasn't even on my radar. But yeah, I mean, there's an ample amount of wilderness and forest and stuff, I assume there. Hunting's fairly big there. So yeah.
And let's be honest, anything out of Missouri is not interesting enough to talk about.
It does seem,
all agree.
pretty vanilla.
Yeah. If you're from Missouri, just go ahead and fucking unsubscribe.
Yeah. Get the fuck out of here.
Get out of here. Find us a real, credible Bigfoot story, and we'll think about having you back. All right, well, you just need 7 and 5. 5, I think, will not be on the tip of your tongue, but 7 might be guessable.
I don't know which one it would fall under, but I feel like New York has got to be in there.
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Upstate New York. A lot of reports come out of that region with the Adirondack Mountains and stuff. So, all right. So New York's not on the list. Let me think. Pennsylvania?
No. You actually need
One of my favorite videos is out of Pennsylvania.
Which one's that?
White Sasquatch? It's like a full frontal facial, like 3 feet away, split second. That video is pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happened in Pennsylvania.
That's one of those things, like, I don't know. It's like you have the evidence right there in front of you. So, like, where, why does nothing ever come of that? I don't know.
Yeah, that one's fantastic. Of course, the skeptics all say, oh, it was a guy in a mask.
Yep.
But they've broken down that video as far as, like, how the nostrils move and the eyebrows move. And they're like, I don't think that's somebody in a mask. So who knows? Okay, so Montana's not on the list.
You need to go south.
Pennsylvania's. Okay, we're going south. Alabama? Is Alabama on the list?
No. So think about the most populous states in the country.
Most populous states in the country? Oh, Texas. Texas in there? Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
So Texas has 246 sightings, which puts it at number 7. But It only has 0.8 sightings per 100,000 people, by far the lowest in the top 10. So just because there's so many people there, you're going to have a lot of sightings.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard for me to take seriously a Texas Bigfoot sighting, you know?
Yeah, Texas is so full of itself, and the bravado and everything's bigger. And that's definitely a state where I could see that an eyewitness might be full of shit.
Yeah, if you had a Texas asshole sighting or a Texas cowboy sighting, I can listen to that. But Bigfoot, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now you just need number 5, and it is mid-country.
Let's see. We've done Missouri. Kansas is too flat, not enough trees. Nebraska, same thing. Arkansas?
No.
The Ozarks?
That's a really good guess, because, there's a ton of wooded area out there, but no.
I kind of want to say Iowa, but that doesn't feel right.
No, but you're kind of close.
Is it north of Iowa? Is it Wisconsin?
No.
That's not really mid.
You're right there, though.
I'm at a loss.
Right there.
Okay.
Illinois, my friend.
Illinois.
Illinois. What's your problem with Illinois?
I just would have thought. I don't think I've heard of many stories out of there.
Yeah.
Illinois. Interesting. Okay.
Illinois, number 5. 296 total sightings, or 2.3 per 100,000. It's good that we're ending with this, because I do have a story.
Mm-hmm.
This one's really recent, January 2023. This is the first-person testimony again. My grandkids spotted what they saw as a Bigfoot in a ditch along a tree line in rural Custer Park, Illinois. It stood watching them. When they looked away, it moved a little ways and stopped when they looked at it. They got pictures of it and found footprints. One of the pictures looks like a bear, but we do not have bears in this area. I actually looked for the picture, could not find it. Husband and grandson have heard howls and knocks at night, made the hair on the back of my husband's neck rise. You do often hear with these stories, Bigfoots like to howl, I guess.
Yes, I was going to mention real quick, if you haven't heard this yet, look up the Sierra sounds. I think it was back in the 70s, some campers audio recorded. I don't think there's any video, but there's audio of multiple Bigfoot nearby, having conversations. Again, if this is true, it's fascinating because it's more than just howls. I mean, there's some howls, but some of this audio, you can tell the creatures are fairly close by. And it sounds almost like cavemen talking. It does not sound like animals. It sounds like almost some sort of language. But
I mean, they'd have to be. If Bigfoot are real, they are primates that walk on 2 legs. You'd have to think they're highly intelligent.
Yes.
The only thing smarter than a Bigfoot would be a human, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you would think.
Fascinating, too, to me, the story you just shared about the Bigfoot talking to each other is because most times, I know I shared the story of the Bigfoot gang attacking those people in 1924 in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
That aside, 99 out of 100 Bigfoot sightings is a singular Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
They don't travel in packs, we think. But if there's multiple Bigfoot close enough to talk to each other, you'd think that a Sasquatch would go its whole life without ever even seeing another Sasquatch. I don't know. It's just a lot there. But it's a lot we don't know, Dave.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's go back through the top 10. We have number 10, Georgia, your home state. 132 sightings total there. We have Missouri at 9, Michigan at 8, Texas at 7, Oregon at 6, Illinois at 5, Ohio at 4, Florida at 3, California at 2, and number 1, by far, Washington, has 676 credible sightings and 8.9 sightings per 100,000 people.
Jeez.
Oregon has 6 per 100,000, but other than that, everyone else is in the 2s, 1s, and below 1. So Washington is way the fuck up there.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, are you more or less convinced of Bigfoot after today's episode?
I think I'm more convinced. Yeah.
What would you do if you saw a Bigfoot in the wild? Would you pursue it?
I think I'd have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you'd regret it.
I've thought a lot about this, and it might end up killing me, but what a way to go.
Yeah.
Just for those few seconds before I'm ripped to shreds, to just have that peace of mind of I was right.
But then no one ever knows, so what's the fucking point?
That's all right. At least I know. I die knowing that that this legend was real.
And the Bigfoot, after it tears you apart, will lay, not eggs, but will use your carcass as a baby bin, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that, or he'll take my skin and add it to his thatch hut or whatever type of domicile he's built.
Have you ever gone on a Bigfoot expedition yourself, since you're so interested in it?
Not a proper expedition, but what I do is I tour a lot as a comedian, and in between, if I go out for 2 or 3 weeks, unfortunately I don't have shows every night. Sometimes earlier in the week it's usually slow, so it's Mondays and Tuesdays I'm rarely doing shows. So rather than just sit in a Motel 6 in some suburb somewhere, I will try to find camping locations. I go a lot, I camp a lot. I always do research based on where I'm going. Whatever region I'm in, I always look for places that have had sightings that maybe aren't too far of a drive from in between my gigs. But so I'd probably a couple dozen camping trips with the purpose of I'm here because there's been sightings. So
that's really cool.
Always fun.
Have you ever made it out to the sighting of the Patterson Gimlin film?
I have. Yeah, I camped there. I camped literally less than a mile from that site.
Oh, man. Tell me you walked over and found the site in the video. I mean, I guess it'd be hard to find. Yeah,
it was. And they even said, I did a bunch of research, and they said it's so grown up now that it's really hard to get there on foot. But yeah, I think I got within a mile of it, and it's kind of right on the California-Oregon border.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I kind of narrowed down their location and spent 2 nights camping very close by. So that was exciting. And just knowing that, of course, even if Bigfoot, well, I'm not going to say even if, we all know that Bigfoot is real.
Of course.
But just the fact that there's probably so few of them, the odds of an actual sighting, I realize, are very minimal, but still just putting yourself in the right position, setting yourself up for success. I just love that concept of I'm in the area, so it's not like I'm, somewhere where there's never been a sighting. Exactly. Yeah. So it could happen. I've made the effort to put myself in this area, in this location, just hoping for the best. But I've never even come close to hearing or seeing anything I remotely thought might be a Squatch. So.
No Bigfoot caveman talk in the area?
No, unfortunately not. But yeah, you got to keep trying. So I keep putting myself out there. Yeah. So maybe one day.
And the cool thing too to me, it's even if the Patterson Gimlin thing was a hoax or fake, whatever. I don't know that it was, but let's say it was. Even if I knew that it was fake, it would still be cool for me to just be in that area because that footage is so historic. It's one of the most famous pieces of footage ever.
Yeah.
Just being close to that history would be really cool to me.
Yeah.
Dave, you mentioned traveling around the country. Are there any tour stops coming up you want to plug?
Yeah, sure. In August, I'm going out for a couple of weeks. Let's see, in no particular order, hitting Wilmington, North Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, Savannah, Georgia. Then I head down to Florida. I hit Jacksonville, Tampa, Tallahassee, Panama City, Pensacola, and then I end up in Mobile, Alabama.
Damn.
And so all those dates, they're not on my website yet, but they'll be there soon.
Yeah.
But
by the time this drops, they'll probably be there.
Yeah, I'll get those uploaded. So and I'm taking my wife out with me this time too. She's also a comic. She's going to be opening for me. So fans of my podcast, The Stonebergs, might appreciate the fact that my wife Katie will be with me. So it's going to be a fun run. So, Florida, coastal Carolinas, Mobile, Alabama. So all that's second part of August. So be on the lookout for that.
You have to go find a skunk ape.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely.
Well, that's awesome. I encourage the listeners to check out your website. It's going to be in the show notes. Your podcast, The Stonebergs, really fun show. I encourage everyone to check it out. It's on every podcast player.
Thank you.
Dave, I think this was a ton of fun. I love talking Bigfoot. I'd love to do it again sometime.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Nick. Appreciate it.
And to the listeners, do you have a Bigfoot sighting story? Please tell me you do. If you do, I want to hear about it. Hit me on social media at 10ishpod or on Instagram, Reddit, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, pretty much every social platform out there. It's the same handle on all of them, at 10ishpod. Next week, I'll be back with my regular sidekick host, Alex Johns. If you want to listen to that episode early and ad-free, go to 10ishpod.com/plus. Sign up for a 10ishpod Plus membership. Until next time, thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Let's face it, money is the one subject we all need to deal with, but no one actually wants to talk about. The good news is there's a podcast helping you learn everything about money no one taught you. Meet Everyone's Talkin' Money, hosted by me, Shauna Game. Everyone's Talkin' Money focuses on relevant, inclusive, and forward-thinking conversations around money and just helps you get in a better relationship with your money no matter what your goals are. Do yourself a favor and subscribe to Everyone's Talkin' Money podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Have you ever wondered why we call French fries, or why something is the greatest thing since sliced bread? There are answers to those questions. Everything Everywhere Daily is a podcast for curious people who want to learn more about the world around them. Every day, you'll learn something new about things you never knew you didn't know. Subjects include history, science, geography, mathematics, and culture. If you're a curious person and want to learn more about the world you live in, just subscribe to Everything Everywhere Daily wherever you cast your pod.
This is a Glass Box Media podcast.